Welcome to the British Standards Institution's webinar on strengthening resilience with business continuity management, ISO 22301. It is my privilege and honor to open this very important learning and timely session. The impact of disasters on business can be substantial, regardless of the size of the organization. Having effective business continuity plans and capabilities in place is key to restoring operations if anything goes awry. Business continuity management has become a vital discipline, bringing benefits that go far beyond helping organizations recover from unexpected disruptions. Today, broader benefits of BCM can best be harnessed through the International Management Standard ISO 22301. I am very pleased to introduce our resource speaker, Ms. Alicia Belen, our specialist client manager in the Philippines. Alice is a seasoned client manager with over 15 years of experience in training and assessing internationally recognized management system standards across various industries. In her role, Alicia provides technical advice and support for business development, public training, and in-house training projects. She also serves as the compliance and risk manager, ensuring accreditation and maintaining professional relationships with accreditation bodies. Her responsibilities include planning, controlling, and implementing compliance and risk activities, internal audits, training, education, and promotion. Please welcome Ms. Alicia Belen. You may unmute, Ma'am Alice.
Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to this webinar. In this a few minutes that we're going to present to you, we are here in behalf of BSI. We are actually trying to advocate the business continuity management system. It would definitely, in a developmental process, help the organization and in an overall look into the Philippines as a whole, no, as a country. Okay, so you will go through understanding ISO 22301 and trying to, compress it, but it definitely give you a good idea about it, its benefits, the key requirements, and of course some tips from clients. And of course, we will also, Ava will also show you the journey to ISO 22301 implementation and certification. No? And of course, the most important part is we would have a Q&A, which I think you will have some questions, and we would like to entertain those questions for you. Okay, next. Now, ISO 22301 is Business Continuity Management System. We usually call it the BCMS. Okay. It is an international standard. It started with the British standard 2599. No? A lot of companies have actually started using that, especially in Europe, in the US. Right now, it's already considered an ISO standard. It has already gone through its two versions. No? It provides a framework and knowledge to implement how to implement correct solutions and to what extent, what to prioritize so that you will be able to optimize the resources that you have as an organization on addressing business continuity, because business continuity only comes during when there are threats and calamities, especially in the Philippine scenario. This will empower also the organization to respond to disruptions, return to normal operations quickly, and of course, minimize the impact of disruptive incidents. I'd like to share with you the thing that really stuck in my brain during my elementary days. And my teacher has always emphasized to be proud as Filipinos, and we should be. And she said that we Filipinos are like bamboos. And I was able to connect it with business continuity. No? Bamboo, have you seen a bamboo? Yung Filipino bamboo talaga, no? If you've seen that, no, if you belong to an area where there are many bamboos, ito yung bamboo. During strong wind, it would bend, right? It would bend like that. and then it will slowly, gracefully go back to its upright position, right? So, business continuity, I would like to compare it in a way that business continuity will avoid panic. It will, give you some certain level of certainty. As we all know that in this world, there are always uncertainty. But the essence of business continuity is in the midst of uncertainty, you're able to lower that level of uncertainty. There will be never ever 100% certainty. But what we do in the real world is to make sure that these uncertainties are being studied and you lower the level of uncertainty. Okay, so that's the one. Next. So business continuity will, having said what I just said, okay, definitely protect your organization. And since you're able to continue your services, it will also enrich your reputation as an organization, being resilient. No? It will also help you identify so proactively. No, this is not reactive, but it's a proactive system. No, that's why we implement this type of standard because it's proactive. It should not be reactive. That's the essence of that. And you start studying. And that's the essence of uncertainty, knowing. So you start to identify your threats to your organization. And of course, you're going to recover from disruptive incidents when they happen. You have things already in place in your plans, and then you choose depending on the different threats and circumstances. Okay. With that, consequently, you minimize the impact of unexpected interruptions. You ready? You may not be 100% ready, but that's better than being not ready and being reactive. Okay. So it's just that you, as an organization, develop that capacity to deal with unforeseen events. No? And as I mentioned, panic should not happen. Okay, it may to a certain level individually, but as an organization, you don't panic. No? You stay agile. When you say agile, you're ready for the different changes and circumstances. You have the capacity to be flexible and know where to go. No, flexible, but at the same time, knowing where you want to go because they're all laid down in the different circumstances that you have done when you did your threat and identification. And of course, demonstrate control over your business operations to your number one, customers, of course, and of course, your other stakeholders. This is one thing that the customers would like to really see. Next. Okay, so how does it work? So it works on the premise of a management system, a plan, do, check, act. I think most of you here are familiar with ISO standard. It is based on a management system. When you say management system, it means PDCA siya, no? Kagad, no? So when we say plan, do, check, act, it's a cycle. They are interconnected, they're linked, no? There has to be a strong link between them or among them, no? Okay. When you say planning, you're setting directions. What are my directions in terms of business continuity? Okay. You will have to set directions, know where to go, no? In terms of business continuity, to what extent do we achieve the capability, no? Second is once you have plan, okay, set directions, you come up with your actions. So you do it, you implement those actions. And once you have implemented those actions, you need to check, meaning you need to measure because without measuring, you're not managing. No? As we all say that, no? I think everyone has heard that, especially those who have attended my training. Pag hindi ka nag-measure, you don't know where you're going. You don't know, did I improve or not? So you have to really measure. No? So that's an important also part of the management system. And in this world, there are no perfect organization, no perfect process, no perfect system. There will always be what we call continual improvement that is in the act. As you can see that in most management system standard, they have what we call a corrective action because no one's perfect. And the best thing to do is improve. Okay, so that is the ISO harmonized approach, as we all know that all standards are using this cycle, no? The plan, do, check, act. Okay, next. So let's go through the concepts, no? just for you to appreciate what ISO 22301. Okay, number one is, this is familiar. I think this is applied to all management system. Just quickly in the business sense, for those who are in the business, okay, this is what we usually call the business environment. You do it through SWOT analysis, or you might do it PESEL analysis, or they call it environmental business scanning. So that's it, no, in the business world. Okay. In ISO, it's generally called the context of the organization. What does that mean? I need to know my organization in and out, up and down, through and through. Why? Because without knowing your organization, you don't know how to plan your direction. How strong am I? How capable am I? What is the capacity of my resources? So that's the essence of the context of organization. Just know your organization through and through. Okay. At the same time, know your organization includes what are the outside factors that affects my business as an organization. At the same time, specifically on business continuity. So that's the context of the organization, no? When you say context, yung talagang ano yun, no? Nilalaman. Okay, so knowing your organization. Interested parties in the business world, we usually call them stakeholders lang. So yun, yung mga stakeholder analysis natin. We as an organization, it is essential to know who are our interested parties or stakeholders. No? Usually, it would be the customer that would be the number one. No? But there are others like your suppliers, service providers, of course. We have the regulatory bodies. No? So those are the things. They are so. These are it can be a person, it can be an organization that are affected by your decisions in the organization. Next, leadership. Okay. This is what has been emphasized in any management system because everything emanates from leadership. Okay. Without leadership, no management system, no processes can achieve its direction or its target or its end result. Okay, the desired result. So usually leadership would emanate from top management. I think for most of you are in the business, you will know the the organization, you will see them. Okay. And when you try to study their corporate culture, you will say, oh, this will also define the leadership of top management. So this is essential because this connects, the leadership will connect it and cascade into the actual implementation of the different processes necessary for a business continuity management system. And leadership is so important, right? So they're actually what we call our the one who promotes prime movers, and of course they give direction and they also motivate people. Okay. Performance evaluation is the checking part of ISO management system standard, and that will be clause number 9, no? As you all know. It is a measurement. So when you say measurement, you determine a value, okay? Knowing the value would mean it can be the value, it can be in terms of tangible and intangible, no? So you need to identify that value so that you know where you are as an organization, if you're improving or not, or you need to add more efforts, where to prioritize. Okay, so performance is knowing myself. Where am I? Know thyself. And that's the beginning, as they say in the usual management. No? You have to know yourself, and then you'll be able to determine what I need to do. No? Okay. So in addition to that, performance evaluation also include analysis. We don't focus on the data, but we also put meaning to the data, determine their behavior. It's not just a matter of getting values. It's you give meaning to these values, you understand the behavior and the trends so that you will be able to act on them, no? More on a very optimized manner. Okay, next. Another concept is maximum acceptable outage. Okay, now this is commonly called as MTPD, maximum period of disruption. No? So it's called maximum acceptable outage. The maximum acceptable outage is the time required, no, although there is a definition here, that this is the time that you should set, that you should limit your responses, your continuity procedure restoration processes within that MAU. Because beyond that, that's what you call panic. Beyond that is customer complaint. Beyond that is loss of customers. Beyond that is loss of reputation. Okay. Now the MAU from one organization to another organization will not be the same. Will not be the same. And you, if you do a good job in studying the context of your organization, knowing your threats, you'll be the best person or the organization to determine your MAU. There's no such thing as a perfect MAU immediately. No, you as an organization will be able to refine it and process it. Okay. Minimum business continuity objective is another concept. It is actually the minimum level of services or products you're able to deliver or provide that would be acceptable, okay, to achieve your business objective, but not during on normal operations, but during disruption. For example, it could be your number of transactions, right? Or your production rate. Instead of the usual 100% production rate, you will maybe lower the first few days to 50%, no? Some will start from zero, some with 50%, then eventually go back to 100%. Okay. It should be, ideally speaking, you should be able to bring it back to 100% after, within the maximum acceptable outage. No? So when we say business objective continuity, minimum business continuity objective, this is the minimum by which you can be able to function or to provide business during disruption. Okay, there's such a thing as prioritized time frame. These are actually like this is the time frame maybe for different processes within your organization. If you have many services and many products and the processes to provide those services and provide those products, you need to determine what are the time frames for each of the process. And you must know the linkages and the sequence of this. It's something that you need to sit down and study. And so that each process or each department would know what is the role during disruption. And you will be like a good orchestra, no? Okay, playing similar music, no? Okay. And essentially, it is essential, yeah, it is a must, okay, to have some warning and communication in different levels, no? Top, no, from top down, bottom up, lateral, and external communications to customer, your service providers, those that provide services for your for during fire or a typhoon, all those things, no, support services, okay, and of course the other interested parties. So you have to. Of course, internally, that should be the first thing that you note. So these are the things that will keep you ready during the actual disruption. Next. Okay. Business continuity. This is something you need to look into and really is actually capacity. So your capacity. So when we say capability, sorry, it's capability. When you say capability, that's both capacity, okay, in terms of resources, at the same time yung effectiveness, no? Okay. So this is the capability of your organization to continue to deliver your products and services. Okay. At the acceptable, you need to define that predefine acceptable capacities. So following and disruption. You know better your interested party, you know your customers, okay, you know how much inventory you have, you know how much is the lead time, etc. So this is the thing that you need to look into, no? To be able to determine acceptable predefined capacities. A business continuity plan is an actual documentation of your plans. These are plans because this does not happen every day, right? This happens only during disruption. We need, no, this is a standard that requires actual documentation of the plans and the procedures that support the plans. What are you going to do immediately at the onset of the disruption? Okay, then you respond okay, depending on the threat. Then while there is a response, there's also a corresponding communication, determination of the damage, etc. Then starting with your continuity, restoration, okay, resumption, then finally you're able to go back to its original situation. No? Business as usual. This plan, that includes also yung communication plan, escalation, no? And how to deploy, what to activate. So those are the things that should be in the business continuity plan. And this is the core of the business continuity management system. But this plan will not be done properly until we do a good planning, okay, or what we call a BIA. So the business plan will not be as effective and as efficient without doing a good BIA. BIA is the first process to prioritize with all the services that we have, with all the products that we have, okay, what will I prioritize business-wise? You need to consider financial criteria. It can be reputational criteria, compliance in terms of regulatory requirements, and primarily customer satisfaction. No? And of course, process efficiency. So you have to determine those criteria. You should know what those criteria are. Based on the BAA, you're able to, oh, if I have 5 products during business continuity, I'll address only 3 products. See? So the BCMS is actually trying to do it in a very scientific, organized way to optimize the resources that you have. So once you've done that, the prioritized process will undergo what we call a risk assessment. That is where you're going to determine the different threats and its effect on that process. What resources will be affected when there's a typhoon or a fire or pandemic? Different resources will be affected. No? Like when you say pandemic, definitely number one resource is people, right? In typhoon, it can be the resources, the facilities, no? The roads and buildings. So that would depend. And you need to know exactly if there's a fire, these are what I'm going to prioritize, typhoon, etc., etc. No? Since disruption, they only happen when there's a threat, right? It doesn't happen every day, okay? Um, and there is a need, and I always emphasize that you need to exercise, exercise, exercise. Na? Kasi hindi naman natin ginagawa yan araw-araw. We don't do that every day. And the best thing to know if this plan and actions and procedures are actually effective and efficient and brings about business continuity capability, then of course we need to exercise. There are different levels of exercise. It's up to the organization. And I can reassure you that this exercise, depending on the type of exercise that you will adopt, will definitely help you improve your business continuity. And there's always a refinement of the business continuity. Always, huh? Especially in this dynamic world. It can change. Next. So this is just an illustration of the difference between when you have a business continuity and if one that you don't have. Again, I emphasize, sabi nila, why do I have to do business continuity? No? Okay. Then number one, I have mentioned, no, is to actually, as we all know, there's no 100% certainty, but there will always be uncertainty. So I would like to minimize that uncertainty. That's number one. Second is because of the principle of that uncertainty is I'd rather know what it's going to do rather than not knowing anything at all, right? It's better. It may not be 100% correct or yung sukat na sukat during whenever there's an actual threat, but somehow I have something laid down. I only have to do just tweaking. Na? As we all know, the world is so dynamic. You have to do some little quick. And BCMS will make it easier for you to do the adjustment. Na? But still, you will have more level of certainty. No? Okay, not 100%, but medyo merong mataas kang certainty. So if you look at this is an illustration of business continuity being effective for sudden disruption. No? Okay, so if there's sudden disruption, some organization can continue a bit. Okay, so if you're going to look at that, hindi siya zero talaga, di ba? Okay, so you can see, and they start, and your business continuity management system already in place to respond, to mitigate situations already. At the same time, if they can already initiate or activate any business continuity efforts, and of course, to address the resumption, up to the resumption. So here you can see the time frame on the x-axis and then the capacity on the y-axis. So, okay, so you have a better capacity if you have a business continuity because you're able. So, if you look at the illustration, the one at the end with business continuity there at the end, no, is actually, I don't know if you can see my pointer mouse. Okay, this is what we can say. Yeah, this one. The one here at the end, okay, with business continuity, that would be within your maximum allowable outage. It should not be more than that based on the time frame. Okay. So you're able to, shorten the disruption, right? Okay. Your minimum business continuity objective can be just, achieved in less than the shortest time possible. Okay. Next. Another one is this illustration is also different shades between one that is not doing any business continuity and the one with the business continuity. Okay, this is during gradual disruption. This happened in 2020 when we have a business, the pandemic, no? So you go through a controlled phase. Okay, mitigation will only start here, no? Because you need to adjust, you need to work on things, no? So still, but all of these already laid down your business continuity plan. All you have to do is do the implementation. These are cases that you have to do some, logistics, people, especially if it's about people. Nah? Okay, so this is another example. Okay, so you have also shortened the disruption. Next. By the way, if you have any questions, please write them down. Take note of them, and I will entertain them later. No, we are willing to entertain questions. So these are the key requirements of ISO 22301. Next. So we have 10 clauses in the usual ISO management system standards. And this is one of the best, I would say the best, version of management system standard because it has included strategic planning so that it would be aligned with the operations. No? Okay. Yun. It has emphasized also the importance of, having the strategic plan and then the operation plan, and then they actually align themselves. Okay, so clause 1 is usually the scope, clause 2 would be the references, and then clause 3 would be the terms and definition. Okay. Okay, there will be, the materials will be shared. Clause number 4 is the start of the things that are required to be done to have a good, effective management system. So as I mentioned, clause number 4, I did mention about the context of the organization. So primarily, it's essential to know yourself, no? Even individually as a person, di ba sabi nila, you need to know yourself. And if you know yourself, you will grow, no? Okay. So as an organization, you should know your organization in and out, up and down, through and through. It's like a SWOT, no? You should know your strengths and weaknesses, also your opportunities, threats. And you as an organization will be the one to know that. Okay. Next. Then we go through clause, next slide, please. Okay, next is the leadership. Now, the leadership will encompass or will actually be applied to all the clauses when you do the planning, the doing, and the check and the act. Okay, we need a leadership to be able to pursue the ultimate goal of business continuity management. Now, planning is 6. Okay, this is when you try to determine your risks and opportunities in terms of business continuity. Okay, meaning how flexible is your organization? Are they multi-scaling in your organization, right? Okay, multitasking. What is the corporate culture of the organization? Okay, what facilities do we have? Do we have capable competency of people? No? Are there specialized competency? How are these competencies shared? So what are your How are your customers? Are they flexible? Are they the type that they need short lead time for you to deliver? So all these things you need to understand. And you also need to look into the outside world. Oh, how is competition? Huh? Are our competitors as good as we are in terms of business continuity? So forth and so on. So you get to know yourself as an organization. That's clause number 6. Nah? Clause number 7 are, they said, okay, we're into operation business continuity. No? But the way to sustain that operational capability is to have the support processes in terms of enhancing your competence. It can be through training, getting the right people, getting consultants. It's up to you. You have to ensure that you have that competence. No? So it can be also, mostly it would be training, and exercising is also part of it. No? Next would be your awareness, so that everyone will work together like an orchestra. No? Hindi yung everyone is working one side here and the others are, just, watching. No, just so you need to look at that. No? Okay. Next would be communication, communication, communication. A management study was done before, and it has proven that one of the root causes of company problems, no, or companies' challenges is miscommunication. Especially, this is a unique disruption. So when you have disruption, you really have to enhance that communication at all levels, in all directions, with all your interested parties. So we're talking about internal and external communication. Excuse me. And lastly, since this is business continuity, it requires a lot of documentation. Okay. And you need to back up the documentation also. Huh? Okay. Although in this day and age, we have many opportunities to back up, but it's best to ensure that this is on your business plan, on your procedures, okay, the roles and responsibility, the contact details, how to contact each and every employee, etc. No? All those information, even to the extent of, although kept confidential, the information of the families, no? We need that during disruption. And of course, we have 8. Clause 8 is the doing part. It starts with the BIA, which is the prioritization of the processes that I need to focus on my business continuity, given the criteria that I mentioned about financial, reputation, competition, regulatory compliance, and of course, customer satisfaction. Okay. Then once you have, for example, you have 5 products, you choose 2 or 3. If you have 7 services, then you can choose which of the services are essential. So you use that in the risk assessment. Okay. So once you have done the risk assessment, you know what resources. Okay, we're talking about people. So there are 4 P's in business continuity. First, people. Okay. Next, the processes, the premises. When you say premises, these are the equipment, the facilities, etc. No, and the providers, your suppliers, service providers. No, if you do a lot of outsourcing, those are the things you need to consider. No, they have to have also business continuity arrangements. Okay. These are the things that you need to focus. Okay, and that's in clause 8. So once you're able to do that in the risk assessment, such that I can prioritize my resources and include that if I need to invest on it, then you have to prioritize also the investment and to know how to optimize the resources given the disruption situation. Okay, so then you come up with your business continuity plan. With a business continuity plan, you're able to lay down what am I going to do at the onset um, of the disruption? What are my response? What are my mitigating? Okay, then what will I activate? What business continuity procedures will I activate? What facilities or premises do I need to restore? Who am I going to communicate? What's the progress of the damage? Etc. etc. So those are the things that should be included in clause number 8. Most importantly, again, I would emphasize on the exercising of the business continuity plan, which is part of the which is part of the business clause number 8. Okay. Okay, good. I think we're doing good time. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. Performance evaluation. What do we measure here? Okay. It's not only, we measure not only in terms of the actual threats, no, what happens during the actual threats, and you study on the time frames that you've used, how well organized you were in the midst of the disruption. You will also look into that during the actual. Second is you will also look into your evaluation of your performance during when you do the exercise. Okay. So you must have an exercise. The standard did not mention exactly the frequency of the exercise. Especially if you're starting with your business continuity, I suggest that you do an exercise as often as you can until you're given that level of confidence. No, you can have different stages and phases of exercising for each process, for each department, and then maybe you have a company-wide one-time, big-time exercise, with everyone there, including the top management or the incident command center, or yeah. So the business continuity. In addition to that, this is what most companies fail to do, that outside the threat or the actual disruption, there has to be a continuing monitoring or checking into the trends, no, on what are the things that can happen, no, so that you can actually, to a certain extent, predict and come up with, not to be yung, it will not become like a sudden disruption. To a certain extent, you're aware of it, no? So that's one thing. Second is you need also to determine your performance in how you did your BIA. Were you able to accurately, to a certain level, determine what are the prioritized process? Was it effective to really determine, oh, we will prioritize 3 products out of 5? And then product A, B, C, D, E. Then I will say I prioritize product E against product A, something like that. So you have also, within those 3, you will also need to determine the prioritization. So that is something you need to also measure. You need also to measure, in addition to that, of course, how effective your risk assessment has been. Okay, so that you can make some, you need to come up with criteria. As you all know, when we do risk assessment, there is identification. So you know your threat, and then yung consequence to the process, no? Then you need to do a risk analysis. You need to determine the frequency, the likelihood, and the probability. I know some companies, based on my experience, they even hired an expert, because this company was really directly near a fault line in Ortigas. So they really hired an expert on geology and on earthquake, no? And they actually identified the threat as intensity 7, intensity 10, because their building can also withstand intensity 10. That's part of the planning also. When there is no threat, you should know, is my building, ano capacity niya during earthquake? Can it withstand during intensity 10 or intensity 7? Or if it cannot, determine, and cannot, be able to respond to intensity 10, then you will also have to come up with measures to make sure that if it's more than intensity 7, what are you going to do? Do you have a monitoring? I know there are buildings that will measure the level of, vibration, and that's how they determine if they need to do an evacuation, total evacuation or not, no? Okay, that's hotel building, and it can be applied to any building. Okay, but so that's clause 9. Clause 10 is, I mentioned to you, is improve. Come up with corrective action, improve. That's the essence of a business continuity, is because the world is so dynamic. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, tips to making the effective now. Okay, so can we see the next slide, please? Okay. So first of all, you have to know the different departments that you work together, so that we avoid silos. Meaning, as I mentioned to you, the best way to make an analogy is you're like an orchestra. Okay, you're connected to each other. You're linked. Hindi kayong kanya-kanya. So that's the essence there, no? So you really have to sit down on this. Make sure that you work as a team for the benefit of as a whole. And the main objective of the organization would be, of course, your profitability, your customers, and of course, your stakeholders. Okay, so you need to review, as I mentioned, the 4 Ps. That would be people, okay, processes, and the process that includes the system, premises, and your providers. Okay, so you should look into that and review that. Okay, the BCM system is a great, if I may read, no, by a chemical manufacturing company. The BCM system is a great, reassuring that it has enabled us to make plans to mitigate problems quickly if they occur. So, for example, they are able to identify a second water supply and provide electricity backup and things that we wouldn't have done otherwise. No? Another director from a technology provider says that with ISO 22301 in place, we are all talking the same language about business. We all understand what is meant by best practices, and we're able to a- to deliver on our customers' expectations during an impactful business event. Okay, next. So these are the tips. Okay. Number one, keep your staff informed what's going on. So that will prevent the silo effect. Create a team and of course a champion. Of course, that will be coming from top management. And always motivate people. Okay. You should know how your people are being motivated. And of course, you have to emphasize on family, knowing the Philippine culture. Huh? It all boils down to family, and of course their profession. Huh? Okay. And of course, speak to your customers and suppliers. They may be able to suggest improvements. So work together with them. Huh? Have that synergy. And top management is so essential. I think we all know that in any organization or management system. And of course, competence, competence, train, train, train. Okay, next. I'd like you to just very quickly, this came from the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation. They came up with this efforts. They're actually now regularly reviewing and updating BCPs. It's essential. So this is based on the study that they have done, and these are the things that feedback from the different companies. So you have to review, exercise, if I may add, exercise. Then you need to do some capacity building, ongoing training, education, refresher course. Okay, it's a must. Although it did not mention in the standard, but I suggest you do some refresher course. And of course, come up with a public-private partnership para you work together because you would know better what they need. Okay, so this is as a whole, which I think would be a good thing that you can take with you when you go back to your organization. Ava?
Thank you, Miss Alice. While we are letting Ma'am Alice drink water, no, before she answers her Q&A, please allow me to share with you the journey to ISO 22301. So it's composed of understanding and preparing, assessing your readiness, and reviewing and getting certified. So obviously, you start with getting a copy of the standard. You review the requirements. You can perform a gap assessment, which could be done by you or a third party such as BSI. And then it can be followed by more specialized professional training in implementation and auditing, such as lead implementer and lead auditor courses. Then after you have implemented all the requirements, finally, you can go through the assessment and certification process. And BSI can support you in this journey. We can help your organization make continuous improvement so it performs at its best. Here, we can support you immediately with our lead auditor training course. It's happening very soon, July 21 to 25. If you want to join us, which I encourage you, please do contact us at these details. Aside from that, we also have upcoming BCMS courses from crisis communication, requirements implementing, business impact assessment and risk assessment, and crisis management. And there's more. So if you want to become a certified professional in BCMS, we can also support you with your professional development with our BSI qualifications program for internal auditor and lead auditor track. So this is a signature program of BSI because it incorporates both knowledge and practice before you get your qualifications. You can decide to be a practitioner and then move on to professional and certified professional across your career. So as our mission to be thought leaders, we are also inviting you into our upcoming free webinars on building trust in AI, navigating responsible adoption on June 19, and then on driving sustainability and digital trust in BIM or building information modeling on July 9. BSI it has been here for over 120 years, and our purpose is to help your organizations achieve your own purpose. We develop standards by creating this or convening the creation of these standards. We provide training and qualifications, assessment, and certification services to ensure that your organization continues to be trusted by your stakeholders. So we are going to provide access to this deck as well as the other BCMS resources before we end the webinar. Thank you for your attention. I think Miss Alice is now ready to answer some questions. Okay, so I have questions here. Okay, for Ma'am Alice, are you ready?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
okay. For context of the organization, how often do we need to conduct SWOT analysis? Is it required to be done annually or is there a prescribed frequency?
Okay, usually it's a business practice that they do a SWOT analysis. It may not be just SWOT analysis. You can have different ways of doing it. Some uses balance scorecard, PESOL analysis. It's up to the organization as long as you know your internal, external influence. No? They usually do it when they do their annual budgeting and planning. Usually, that's the best practice. Now, you should know your organization better than anyone. If you need to do that on a regular basis, annually, if you believe that we have to do it, it's a business that we need to check every 6 months, then you can decide. But at the minimum, it's annual. Okay, that's the regular review. You should also review your context when there are changes. For example, there's a new law, okay? Then maybe you don't need maybe to thoroughly check it, but you have to check those that are affected. So if there are any changes, or when you decide to use a new technology, etc. So you have to review. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Alice. The next one, how can we differentiate business continuity plan from crisis management plan, or is it the same?
They're not the same. Okay. They have similarities, okay, but the scenario would be not the same, okay. When you say crisis, you have other competencies that you need to add. No? For example, you need to have a good spokesperson who is very well known in terms of the business, in terms of technical, etc. No, or it can be a team. Okay, because when we say crisis, to a certain extent, it has affected reputation. Crisis can also happen without a threat, no? An actual natural threat or what. It can happen within the organization internally, because of maybe corporate culture or dissatisfaction, employee dissatisfaction. So this can happen. Now, there are competencies that you need to add when you have some crisis, and there's a strong involvement of top management. Very
Okay, thank
briefly,
you.
that's the difference.
Thank you very much. Should all departments have a BIA
Should all the department?
in an
Yes.
organization? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's better. BIA, but not necessarily risk assessment. After the BIA, because um, after the BIA, that's the time you determine which processes or department needs to do a risk assessment, because you have prioritized, chosen which processes we need to consider in the BCP. However, it's good to take note that if you're a small organization, you don't have to do a complicated survey analysis in terms of the BAA, because your industry is simple. By gut feel, you say, ito na yung priority namin. So that depends from organization to another. But if you're a big organization, then you need to ensure that some organizations like banks, they have some commercial banking, they have retail banking, branch banking. So they have to have a thorough survey questionnaire to do a BIA. Yes.
Okay, thank you. What is your practical advice for those small organizations that are not capable to get a third-party implementer of BCM? How can they implement the minimum business continuity management requirements?
Okay, so even though you're a small organization, I suggest you get a copy of ISO 22301. You can study that, because if you're implementing, if you look at that, these are management system in place in any organization. And when you say competence, strategic planning, they're all business processes. Okay. Second is you don't need to necessarily get certified, meaning in terms of a third party, you can actually ask a organization to certify you, no? Um, the question is more on the implementation right now. So the other thing is, before we call it contingency planning. Contingency planning. Okay. So you can use that principle. So you'll just have to say, if there's a disruption, ano yung contingency namin? Okay, so that I can provide services. But primarily, you have to do it in a scientific, structured way. I suggest that one of your people, you choose a person who will be the core person who's going to also cascade to attend the BSI training, the whole program. Okay. And of course, you optimize that participation in the training, ask as many questions as you can, so that by the time you go to your company, you're able to cascade what you have learned and start the implementation. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Alice. There are a few questions here about ISO 22301 implementation and also the benefit of that versus being certified. So I'll help you answer that question. So on the
Yes.
question on how to get the standard, we can give you a link where you can access the standard, but it is a paid standard. And then what's the difference between just implementing and being certified? Obviously, when you're implementing, that's a minimum, there's a minimum benefit of that. When you are certified, usually if you're required by your clients, your investors, your stakeholders, you have a mark of trust that your business continuity management system is not just compliant, conforming to the requirements as per your own assessment, right? It is verified, it is certified by a third party, and some customers might require for this one particularly. A question that maybe you can answer, Ma'am Alice, is this is about aligned to the expectation of ISO 22301. When you said BC plans are to be exercised, are this physical or can it be paper exercise?
Okay, there are different levels of exercising. Number one is tabletop. Okay, you can make tabletop more practical by doing going not just going through the procedures, but actually coming up with different scenarios which the participants aff- are not aware of. So there has to be a good planner for the exercising, no? Okay, when you do an exercise, you have to make sure so that the exercising will be programmed. You have to make sure that the participants are there. Of course, all the documentations are available. There has to be a facilitator. Okay, so who knows the different scenarios and who's creative enough to to move from one scenario to another. Second is the evaluator has to be someone who knows the procedures, who will evaluate. Do not make the facilitator and the evaluator role merge into one. There has to be a separate facilitator and an evaluator. Then maybe you need some observers who have, parang a neutral ground wherein they can actually give objective comments. Na? Okay. And of course, we need someone to document. So specific yun kasi mabilis dapat yun, no? You can use different props. It doesn't, if you have enough resources, you can do an actual simulation. I've experienced a lot of companies here in the Philippines who really did an actual physical movement, traveling, okay, to do a business continuity. I've seen companies that are doing tabletop and can be able to be equally effective in the objectives of the exercise, na? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Alice. I'm trying to answer some of the questions in the Q&A directly as much as I can.
Yeah.
There's a question here on who are the key people required usually to perform the BIA? Who facilitates this?
Before you do a BIA, you must determine first as an organization with the inputs from top management, what are the criteria that they need to prioritize. Of course, in any organization, we talk about financial, reputation, regulatory compliance. Okay. Then the BIA, you need to determine yung levels of what are the level by which you will know it's already unacceptable. No. Is it a break-even point in terms of financial, or is it, so you need to know because the process owner will be the one to do the BIA. Okay, of course, the top management will have to review it because they need to align it on there are actually things we're in. The top management knows the big picture of the organization. Unlike as a process, I'm only after my own uh, process. So it's good that all the process will do a BIA, it will reviewed by the top management. Yeah. They
Okay.
must understand yung maximum level na it's not anymore acceptable financially, customer satisfaction, regulatory compliance, etc. So for example, if I am a treatment, storage, and disposal organization, I can add a criteria on the environment in the BIA. That's up to you, the organization also.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Alice. Last question because we're already out of time. How does BCM align with enterprise risk management and organizational strategy?
Okay. Enterprise risk management talks about all all the risks that can, the organization. So it's a scientific manner, it's a strategic, it's very good. I usually encourage companies to exercise enterprise risk management. Okay. There are different kinds of risks. As we all know, we have customer satisfaction risk, financial, health and safety, you know. So honestly speaking, business continuity risk will be a subset of the enterprise risk management. But the application is not on a routine operational level. It is on when there are only threats and disruption. So the scenario of risk during routine, day-to-day business operation will be different from disruption. That's the only difference. But the principles of risk wherein you need to determine to identify what are the sources of risk. As we all know, the science behind or the anatomy of risk, it has a source. There are the circumstances and events. Given the source and the circumstances, what are the effects? Okay. You need to know effect on people ba, effect on facilities, etc. So the principles are the same. But you have to remember my source is always the threats to disruption, like typhoons, pandemic, etc. I
Okay,
hope I
thank
have answered.
Yes.
There is another
Yeah,
question.
we have three remaining questions, but we'll just answer them separately. Thank you everyone for participating in our Q&A. Yeah, so many questions.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good
Yeah, that's
sign.
good. That's a good sign, right?
Yeah,
That you're
we're
very
actually
interested.
advocating business continuity, not just,
Yes.
yeah.
So right now we are launching the feedback survey before you leave. Please answer the feedback survey. It is being launched now. Yeah. Then after this, we'll share to you a link to the resources. And then after the webinar, we are going to share with you the recording of this session, including the deck. I know a lot of you have requested for the copy of the deck. Okay, please hold on before you can get access to the resources in the next slide. Please complete the survey.
I guess they can continue asking questions in the chat. I'm gonna answer them in the chat. Is that possible?
Yep. Key
Yeah.
person, Ma'am Alice, in the BCP and the BIA. Who are the key people?
The key people, okay, number one, you have to establish who will be your incident commander and the management team.
Okay,
Second would be
okay.
the process owners, of course. They should know. Nah?
Okay, so
They should
process
know.
owners and the management team. If they can't conduct the exercise because of operational issue, because they're a utility company, what are the other possible options so that they can evaluate the effectiveness of their BCPs?
Oh, okay. It is essential, in the beginning of this annual or your fiscal year, if you plan your production, if you plan your preventive maintenance, I
Oh,
believe it is essential you also plan your exercise. Mhm.
okay. So
No, in
it
certain
needs to be planned.
circumstances, yeah, it has to be. Should there be worst scenario you cannot exercise, you have to devote maybe
Okay.
a time, maybe on holidays.
Yeah. I think
But
some
it's up to,
companies do
yeah.
that. Yep. They like
Yeah,
during
they
their,
can.
yep.
Yep.
And then the last question. So what do we need to do a BIA on all information assets in the organization? What's your recommendation on what to
Yeah,
prioritize?
definitely. They should know. Of course, they should. I don't have to say should. No, they know what are the resources that they have, what are their capacities, capabilities, competency of people, what are the specialized competency if there are. Okay, because part of BIA is to know also the resources. Number one also would be to know what are your objectives as an organization. Okay, the big strategic organizational objectives, because that is at the end of the day, everyone is pointing to that direction. So you, in the process owner, should also know that so that you can do a good BIA kasi kailangan align doon sa strategic objective. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ma'am Alice, and thank you everyone for attending. As promised, we have other resources that you can use in your journey to business continuity management. You can scan the QR code to download the resources. Okay, so I'll pause for maybe 5 seconds and then we can end the session. So I hope everyone has enjoyed our session. It was a very great learning experience. Uh, Thank you for joining our webinar on strengthening resilience with business continuity management system. Please reach out to us via different channels when you scan this QR code. See you in our next webinars and other events.
Maraming salamat.